Welcome, skeptics and truth seekers, to Schoolhouse Crock, the podcast that fearlessly exposes the real deal behind public education in the state of Colorado. I am your host, Stacy Castile, and on this show, we are not here to sugarcoat. We are here to unveil the truths, challenge the norms, and unpack the crock of you-know-what that often goes unnoticed in the realm of education. Today, I have with me guest Corey Hale. Corey, can you introduce yourself?
My name is Corey Hale. I am a fifth grade teacher in a rural public school here in Weld County, and I have taught for 9 years in the classroom in upper elementary and fourth or fifth grade. I am a second generation teacher where my mom had taught for over 27 years in the classroom, and I currently attend church here in Greeley, Colorado, and am the children's church director for my church. So I have lots of interest in public education and teaching in public schools. So watching these things that are coming down the pike is really something very, very important to me. So
Definitely. When you mention coming down, you mean from the state legislation standpoint of it all?
yes.
Is there any particular bills that are currently being heard that are concerning to you?
Well, there's one that talks about non-legal name changes, and pretty much it tells us as a public educator that if a student wants to be called by a different name, prefers a different name, that essentially I as a teacher have to abide by what that student wants, regardless of what the parent says, regardless of what it is in reality, that student, regardless of what the reality is. And, to me, that's a very slippery slope that we are going down because of the fact that, for one, it pretty much removes the parent from our schools. It removes the parent from any decision that we're making. And it goes against my faith in believing that parents are the one. The Bible tells us to train up a child in the way that we should go, and when they are old, they will not depart from it. Well, that's a parent's mandate. So I should be involving the parent in that decision of whether the child wants to be change their name. And I think we've had in the state of Colorado with sex changes as well. It goes against every norm that there ever is.
Well, and if you look at it in the aspect, too, of, okay, let's talk about a fire drill. Let's talk about a tornado drill. Let's talk about a field trip. What if all of the teachers that are there are not aware of this name change, right? Because you're hiding it from the parents. And so if you're hiding it from the parents, you're probably not completely broadcasting it across the board to staff. A kindergarten teacher would not need to know what a fifth grade student is doing, right? But what if they are the ones in charge and they're looking for little Johnny, but Johnny wants to be Sally? Is that not a risk for that child? Active shooter situations.
Yes, it is an absolute risk and an absolute travesty that you're going to put those children at risk and in those type of situations. But this is what we're getting out of some of the, I'm just going to state it, it's a liberal legislature that we have here in Colorado. It's absolutely repulsive, and our children are pretty much running the show.
Yes.
I mean, it's not, the parents aren't in charge of the child's education. I, as a teacher, aren't in charge. The local school board's not in charge. It's now the child that's in charge, and we pretty much have to go with what they say. I mean, little Johnny in fifth grade can't even walk across the street by himself, but we're saying that they can have a different name. They want to be called a different name. We have to go by that. They want to change their sex. They have to go by that. That's absolutely insane.
It is. And just for everybody's record, the bill that Corey is discussing right now is HB 24-1039. I think that it, like you said, it is absolute insanity. We cannot legally leave these children alone overnight. There are guidelines in which how long you can leave a child, what hours can a child be left alone. So if we can't trust them to be left alone, to care for themselves, how are we trusting them to make these types of changes?
Yeah, we can't trust them. I mean, So all of these things that are coming, I mean, I think there were 3 bills here in the last week or so, or within the last month or so, that really it's almost taken the parents' hands out of it.
100%.
I,
And there's actually one of the state representatives, Stephanie Vigil. She is out of El Paso County. She has specifically said the parents cannot be trusted. As a teacher, do you feel that way, or do you feel like you are smarter, more educated, more capable of making a decision for a child than what a parent is?
no, I mean, the parent lives with that child. The parent is at home with that child. So to tell me that the parents can't be trusted, maybe she can't be trusted
Amen.
with
Amen.
legislation, and I'm going to say that. So she needs to step away from the legislature, actually put sane people in that actually can be trusted with legislation and know what's best for the kids. When I'm the teacher, I'm the adult in the room. When the parent goes home, they're the adults there. And I expect that out of the parents. Now, you've got those kids that probably, would get physically abused or something like that. I get that. But that's not the majority of parents.
Well, and wouldn't you say that in situations where a student is not being abused at home, okay, but there's an issue in your classroom, you're going to reach out to the parents so that you guys can wrap around that student and try to help them succeed in school. Now, if you see a student in your classroom that you have concerns that they're being abused, then at that point you would say, hey, I don't feel like this is a safe situation. Let me get somebody else involved because I cannot go to the parents. The chances of a student being abused at home, whether mentally, physically, emotionally, verbally, whatever, is so much smaller than what is really happening. Mm-hmm. But yet we want to make these mass changes that will affect all students across the board, whether they're being abused or not.
And in my tenure as a teacher, my 9 years as a teacher in public education, if we feel like a child is being abused, we have a number that we can call and we're supposed to contact. So if you're clergy, if you're a coach, even if you're a volunteer in the school, we have the ability to contact somebody and say, hey, this child is in danger. We feel like this child we need somebody to check on it. Now, sometimes they come back and say, yeah, everything's okay. You know what? But and we can have our anonymity as a teacher. We can stay private as a teacher. So if we're concerned about that, okay, we have ways to get around that. I mean, but this whole not involving the parents and the sex change or wanting to be called they, them. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. If you call somebody they, them, or if a child wants to be called they, them, that is absolutely... I would ask the kid whether they have multiple personalities.
Yeah. Well, and I think if you even look at it from an educational standpoint, how do you properly teach a child grammar?
No, you
if
can't.
You can say, well, wait a minute, that's a multiple, but you're only a single, but we'll play along and let you think that you're a multiple even though you're only a single.
or a kid that believes that they're a furry.
Oh, yes.
I mean, we can't even... If a kid wants to be a furry, I mean, I've heard of public school districts who have put a cat litter box in the bathroom. Why are we even doing that?
Yeah.
If you want to be an animal, you stay at home. My cat stays at home. He has his litter box at home. He doesn't need a litter box in my classroom, and I don't bring him to the class.
This isn't Mary Had a Little Lamb.
Sorry, Bart. You're not coming to my classroom. You're a great cat, but you're not coming to my classroom. By the way, that's my cat's name is Bart. So...
Is there any other legislation that's coming down that's also concerning to you?
Oh, well, let's see. Here's SB 24-034. It talks about increasing access to school-based health. Looking at this bill summary, it talks about increasing access for primary health care, behavioral health care, oral health care.
One of the things that I found out is actually this is not even just limited to students. Teachers can now access this as well.
Yeah.
They get grants from the federal government. But when they were actually discussing this a couple of weeks ago during session, they had a doctor from the Denver area go on and testify in favor of this, of course. And she was talking about what an amazing situation she'd encountered that day, where a student was making some risky sexual decisions and had confided in a teacher, and the teacher was able to get her in touch with the doctor, and they were able to do a physical exam, a little bit of an emotional exam, and then kind of go this route. And they were able to do that all without talking to the parents.
Yeah.
Now, this is a gray area because Representative Lundeen had asked for clarification if the parents had been notified, and they said, well, in this situation, the student was 18. But unless it's sexual assault, if a student is 12 years old or older, they can actually make a decision to not have their parents involved. And that's terrifying as well.
And so what you're running into this, and I get, you want to make sure that you have healthy students and things like that, which is why I think dentists, for as long as I can remember, there are times that they provided low-cost health care. I remember when I was teaching over on the Western Slope, the college that they had right in that town did a day where kids would go and get their teeth cleaned. And so you've had that where dentists provide, some dentists come in and provide low-cost health care. I think Weld County has even had a day where they've had people come in and at Island Grove and do their dentist. They have oral health care. Behavioral health care, again, it's, we have that already. So in place where kids can get that low-cost health care. They don't need a health care clinic in a school. What school needs a full-blown health care clinic unless you're going around the parent and trying to stop the parent from hearing about it? It's absolutely insane.
They target the parents of single parent homes, the full-time working, unable to take time off parent households, because those are the ones that they can say, well, see, look at how much easier we make this for you. But that parent may be thinking that their kid's going to get a free dental exam, whereas then they're also talking to them about their mental health and prescribing them medications, sexual health. All of these different aspects can be then slowly crept in through the back door.
And it's taken away parents. And this is something, we have health care clinics that we can go to that provide low-cost health care if you tell them what their situation. Oftentimes, and you go to an emergency room, they cannot deny you based off of your funding.
Yeah.
They
have signs all over.
Yeah, if you go into a hospital, you cannot be denied services because of your income.
Yeah.
Again, this is all about trying to subvert the parents, all about trying to subvert the teacher, all about trying to subvert the adults that should be the adults.
Yes. Well, and like you'd stated, the kids are running the show. That's 100% correct. So we are trying to cut the parents out. We're trying to empower children to think that they have the ability. You hear stories about kids who, call the police on their parents for disciplining them or something. First of all, as a child, anytime that I got disciplined, I earned that discipline, okay? I could not imagine what would have been my next discipline if I would have called the police on my parents. But what we have is a generation of kids who are entitled.
They're
who think that they can. I was at my daughter's school. It was probably in September, October. It's a high school, so they're driving. I see a kid pull out like an idiot, and I'm like, oh, kids. Yeah. And then, I'm busy multitasking, and all of a sudden I hear wheels squealing, and I was like, what is that? And I look up, and I see that same vehicle jumping across a median sidewalk of the school, almost hits another car who has to slam on their brakes to stop so he can go. And he goes and he does this a couple more times. So I'm like, okay, here comes the Karen in me. No problem. So I get out of where I was parked waiting for my child. I go and I take a picture of their license plate because I want to notify the principal. Is there damage? Is this a repeat offender? Is this person? It wasn't immediately after school, but there was still a lot of cars and a lot of students on campus. It was a risk for them. So the kid caught me because I'm not stealthy at all in doing this. And he confronted me. Why are you taking a picture of my car? Why are you driving like an idiot?
Because what you're doing is illegal.
Yes.
It's wrong.
And then he goes, I'm just a kid. You need to let me have fun. You probably didn't have any fun as a kid. And I just kind of laughed because, of course, the flood of all of the things. But if I would have got caught doing those things when I was a kid by an adult, I would be like, please don't tell my mom.
Yeah.
Oh, crap. I'll never do it again.
So I had a teacher, ag teacher in high school, and he talked to my dad and things like that. And my dad was pretty harsh. And in fact, you talked about earlier about, my dad would have said, "Here's the phone. You can call social services yourself. You can call social services. That's fine." Just remember that right's end at the end of my property.
Yeah.
Which that's another whole animal itself nowadays. But and God bless my dad. He's went on to be with the Lord and things like that. So, but one of the things the ag teachers looked at me and said, "My dad gave you permission to beat your," and I'm not going to say it on the show, but you can guess what the other word was, and that's what my dad said. It was, and I immediately shut up at that moment because I knew that's what my dad said, and this teacher would have honored his request.
Yeah.
And all of our teachers probably would have honored their request. Now, we as teachers are afraid to even do anything. We had somebody one of our paras at the school I'm teaching at. The kid started running and they went after and grabbed the kid to try to get him back. And the kid literally yelling at this para to the office. And just screaming and yelling. I would have probably looked at that kid and said, "You ever yell at me like that again, let me tell you, you're going to get far worse." And talks to our principal, and doesn't lose recess, doesn't lose anything. We're not supposed to, and this is the problem. There's no discipline in our class.
No.
We can't discipline because, well, let me tell you, if you discipline, you're hurting the psychology and the ego of that kid because their feelings go over the other kids.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we also put this, like we talked about making these changes for, kind of like umbrella changes for everybody when it's really a small percentage. That's exactly what it is with behavioral issues is we don't care if we hurt the rest of the classroom as long as that child who is acting out feels okay. Then that's all we got to do right now. Yeah. The same thing with the name changes. How confusing for these kids to be like, well, my friend Johnny now wants to be called Sally, and I don't know how this makes me feel. And, it's kind of weird. Down in the Cherry Creek School District back in, I believe, November or December, there was an overnight field trip. An 11-year-old boy who identifies as a girl was not only roomed in a room, but in a bed with an 11-year-old girl. What about her feelings? What about that?
Nobody asked her feelings.
As long as that little boy who thinks he's a girl feels okay, feels included, that's all that matters.
Yeah, nobody asks for their feelings, or things like that, and it's absolutely ridiculous. You're not asking for the other kids' feelings.
No. We are expecting inclusion at the sacrifice of 99% of our students.
Yeah. And my job is to teach 20 students, but yet I'm supposed to take that child that's causing disruptive, having behavioral problems, and let them allow them to be in the classroom. That's absolutely insane. It's absolutely wrong. So
yes.
Yeah.